What I have are two IEMs that are similarly priced from Kefine, and somehow they have very similar kind of tuning. Even though they have different kind of drivers and kind of priced slightly apart. This one is priced at 80 to $90. The prices vary. Okay, let me be very clear, prices vary. In sale this might drop to even $70. I'm not exactly sure, but the Kefine Quatio is priced at $105 to $125, depending upon the time, depending upon the seller and that kind of stuff. In any case, both are from Kefine, and this one is the flagship. This one is a mid-range IEM. This one is a 1 year old, while this is their latest IEM. This one houses 4 drivers within it, 2 dynamic drivers and 2 BA drivers, while the Delci AE is housing one dynamic driver. Nothing fancy there, but both have very similar kind of tuning. On the surface, at least, both have exactly same kind of signature, but when we dive deeper into the spectrum, where we try to analyze stuff, the difference kind of comes to the forth. In any case, I initially started this comparison with a budget USB DAC amp, but I have to move into the IFI Zen 3 because I kind of felt that Kefine Quatio is asking for that extra amount of power, extra amount of voltage, extra amount of current to open up. And to my not surprise, I was not surprised because I was expecting that, and yes, Kefine Quatio kind of needs good amount of power to open up, while the Delci AE is not exactly demanding when it comes to the source and the power and that kind of stuff, but it still is sounding very good with the Zen 3. In any case, let's move on to the IEMs and the set of accessories, cables and that kind of stuff. Both have very good kind of accessories, to be precise. Both come with generously sized cases for $80-90. This case is fairly premium, no issues with the space or anything like that, while the Kefine Quatio comes with a slightly larger, a bit more premium looking case. If we look at the cables too, this one comes with a dual core cable, while the Quatio comes with a quad core cable. This one can be, Delci AE can be bought with 3.5 mm or 4.4 mm termination. It does not come with modularity, while the Quatio comes with a modular cable and you can change the termination from 4.4 to 3.5 without any issues. If we talk about the behavior of these cables, I kind of felt that the cable from the Kefine Quatio is slightly more bouncy, slightly more microphonic, and has a bit of more memory, while the cable of Delci AE is more supple, does not have any memory issues or anything like that, but it is a lower profile cable and you can expect it to be a bit more convenient with the carry and that kind of stuff. In any case, let's move on to the build quality. If we look at the shells, both have metal build, no issues with the build quality or anything like that, but somehow the Kefine Quatio is slightly less comfortable inside the ear to me, because this part of the this flattish part of this body, let me show you, this flattish part of this body is slightly pressing against my inner ear, which is kind of making it slightly uncomfortable, while the Delci AE is more slanted. It is a bit more curvy here too. You guys can see a bit more curvy here, which is being a bit more comfortable inside the ear. In any case, if we look at the volume and that kind of stuff, yes, it is obvious that the Quatio is around 30 to 40% larger than the Delci AE, because it is housing more drivers. In any case, it is fairly comfortable. In fact, both the IEMs are fairly comfortable inside the ear. No issues with fit or anything like that. Both have a reasonable amount of isolation. Somehow, because of better fit, I kind of felt that Delci AE is a bit more isolating, to be precise, while the Quatio is slightly letting a bit more ambient sound in. In any case, if we start talking about the sound quality, as I mentioned, both have very similar kind of tuning. When we look at the surface, when we look at the signature and that kind of stuff, both are very similar. You will find both of these IEMs with a slightly V-shaped signature, with good amount of bass body and slightly elevated treble range. But when we dive deeper into the details, deeper into the finer differences, the differences reveal themselves. And the dynamic driver, the single dynamic driver IEM, the cheaper one here is the Delci AE, and somehow this one has slightly better sub bass body, sub bass rumble. Depth is very similar. Quatio is not lacking with sub bass depth or anything like that. It is very good with the sub bass depth too, but somehow the Delci AE is better with the sub bass depth and has a bit more rumble. Both are very good when it comes to mid bass, but I kind of felt that the Delci AE is slightly more fun, slightly more musically tuned with a bit more body, a bit more weight behind the notes. It is slightly slower with the decay, while the Delci A, sorry, while the Quatio is slightly tighter, slightly more cleaner. Now let me be very clear. I am using the silver filter here, which is middling between the bass and treble, while this one is on the golden filter. Golden filter, you guys can, I believe you guys can kind of see the golden filter here is more treble forward. So the differences you guys can imagine. It can be bassy, but with that bassy filter, the treble range is kind of mushy. So I'm not using the bass filter here. In any case, with the treble filter too, the Delci AE is offering slightly more fun, slightly slower decay, a bit more punchy, kind of meaty type notes, which is more enjoyable than the Quatio. Quatio is more precise, a bit more dynamic, offers a bit more contrast too, and the layered delivery is very good with both of this. No issues with upper bass clarity or anything like that. If we talk about the area of impact, this one has slightly more area, slightly deeper impacts, while this one is slightly tighter. No issues with the movement of air, but the air does not have that kind of weight behind it. Let's move on to the mid range. That is where the difference are more prominent, to be precise. If you look at the surfaces, both have very similar kind of tonality and timbre. No issues with metallic presentation or anything like that. Both are very neutral, to be precise. Slightly boring too, but both have very similar kind of vocals, note height and note body and that kind of stuff. But this one has a bit more reverb to it. Okay, male vocals have slightly more grunt to them, slightly extra amount of texture, and the decay is slightly slower with the vocals or throughout around the mid range. So the instruments have slightly more cohesive feeling to them. They have a bit more background presence, even though there is a newer note in the foreground, which is not the case with the Kefine Quatio. Quatio is more immediate with the decay and sounds more cleaner, a bit more technically capable, slightly more resolving. But this one is not lacking with definition or resolution either. Delci AE is a fantastic IEM for the asking price when it comes to technicalities and details, yet Quatio is kind of better in that regard because of its BA presence. BA drivers are a bit more precise. If I have to compare this when it comes to tonality and timbre, I will have to give it to the Kefine Delci AE. Tonality, timbre and cohesion are better on this one. It kind of sounds a bit more smoother, a bit more pleasing, while this one can be slightly dry, okay, when compared to the Delci AE. Even though it is not exactly dry, it is more neutralish. It kind of is dryish when compared to the Delci AE. If we move on to the treble range, that is where the Quatio is much better than the Delci AE because of its BA extension. BA has very good extension, and when paired with the Zencan 3, it kind of offers a very good imaging too. Very good amount of air between instruments, and the stage is tall, wide and well expanded. No issues with Z-axis depth or anything like that for the asking price, to be precise, because there are better IEMs if you are willing to spend around $180 like Hades MK12. In any case, this one is offering very good air between instruments. Layering and separation is very good. Notes are agile. They have very good finishing definition throughout the spectrum. This one is not lacking with the clarity or transparency or anything like that in the treble range either. Imaging, as I already mentioned, is very good. No issues with cube placements or anything like that. They are very accurate. Now, Kefine Delci AE is not bad with the treble range at all. Okay, let me be very clear. But the issue is it has a slightly more intimate kind of staging, which is not wide enough. What it is doing is it is slightly lacking air it is kind of making it less airy in the upper treble region, which is not bad. For just $80-90 you should not be asking for a lot, but it definitely is not the most airy in the treble range. It still has the agility, it still has the clarity, it still has the transparency of the Quatio, but the upper treble region is not exactly airy. So that is the basic difference between these two IEMs. If you are going to buy one, keep in mind that this one is a bit more musically tuned and fun to use. Even with the other filter, this one is slightly more precise, slightly more technically capable with the filters. So pick wisely, pick any, you will not be disappointed. Kefine has been making some high quality IEMs in this price range, this lower mid range or upper budget range price range. In any case, this is it guys. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Enjoy.